All right, let's start. So today I'm going to talk to you a bit about advertising, but also lots of different creative careers as well. So as a kid at school, I loved art, I loved people and photography, I loved ideas, but I didn't know anything about advertising or any creative profession. So I'm hoping today just gives you a bit of a view and a bit of a window into some of the different types of careers that you could have with your creative skills. So as I said, I'm an advertising creative director, which basically means that I come up with lots of different ideas, campaigns and marketing comms for different types of brands. So here's a few different brands that I've worked on recently. Uber, so we did a campaign for International Women's Day, Pizza Hut, Dyson, Prince's Trust, Converse. There's a real broad range, and that's actually something I really love about my job, is that every day is different. We work on so many different types of projects and so many different types of output that it's always interesting. So I'm just going to show you a quick 30-second film of some of the types of work that I put on. This is some of the more film-based stuff from TV adverts and social content, just to give you a bit of a flavour. So from TV adverts for Fruit Shoot and also for Wix, down to research films for Converse, for animations for Norton, done a bit of everything. And that's actually the beauty of advertising, is that you will do a bit of everything across your career. I have also written a book more recently called Warrior Warrior. And this is a kid's storybook, and it's really to help young children understand the importance of sharing problems and encouraging people to talk. I really believe that even the strongest soldiers in the land have worries and anxieties too, and actually if you talk about your problems, then it's all right. So this is really trying to help children understand from a very young age. The reason that I wrote this is throughout years of doing and creating campaigns for other brands, I just wanted to create something for myself. And actually, when you have a career in something like advertising and marketing, you learn how to use those skills to not only just create and shape your own personal projects, but how to get it out there and connect with people as well. So what is an advertising creative director? So in a nutshell, it is somebody who comes up with ideas and works with a team of people to create those ideas for different brands and different clients. So Prince's Trust is one of the campaigns that we worked on recently, and actually I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of the whole process of that, but just switch on to the next slide. It can also be things like TV adverts. This is one that I created for Fruit Shoot a few years ago. But it can also be things like social stunts. So one of the things I built, I mean, this is probably about 7 years ago now, is a DVD firing gun for Sky. When you tweeted the gun on Twitter, DVDs shot out the gun. If you hit a star that was sat on one of the shelves, you won a prize. So it's all about finding unique, interesting and different ways to engage audiences to get across different messages. It could even be, on to the next slide. It could even be silly things and fun things. So one of the things that we did again a few years ago now was put dominoes on Tinder, and it was for Valentine's Day, and it was talking to single people and just having fun. So it's how can you engage different audiences in unique and interesting ways. So I'm just going to talk to you briefly about the creative process. So let's take that example of Prince's Trust. So basically the client will come to you with a problem or a brief. So they'll say, they either, for Fruit Shoot, for instance, need to sell more drinks, or for Domino's, they want to be front of mind during an occasion like Valentine's Day. So for Prince's Trust, they wanted to be able to create a campaign and a fundraising platform that would help everyone across the nation, or encourage everyone across the nation to raise money for mental health for young people. So what we do as the creative, we come up with lots of different ideas of how that campaign might look and how you might engage that audience. So this was actually two of the different concepts that we presented back to Prince's Trust right at the very beginning. So they're both different campaigns for that fundraising platform. So one was called the Bright Blue Makers, and it was about turning the negative perception of the colour blue, like the sad connotations of the colour blue, and making that like a bright, positive thing for everyone to celebrate. And the second one was called the Restoration Nation, and that was about reviving and refreshing for mental health, whatever it is that you had within your home. So once you've sold your concept to the client, or you work with the client to craft what that creative output's going to look like, you then need to think about how it's going to come to life. So is it going to be a film? Is it going to be photography? Is it going to be animation? What different assets are you going to need within that campaign? So you then work with the different type of people, and I'm going to show you some of those later, to help you bring it to life. And then your job as creative director is to oversee that process as the campaign comes to life. So for Prince's Trust, we worked with an amazing celebrity photographer called Rankin. Fern Cotton was our celebrity ambassador. Sure, some of you spotted that earlier. So what we do is we brief the photographer of the different style output that we want. We go to the shoot and we oversee that photography process, capturing lots and lots of different stills from the day. And then they pop up on the monitor throughout the day. And then with the photographer, you pick which selects you like, what shots look the best. And if you go on the next slide, you'll see even Fern Cotton was having a look herself. So it's really important that obviously you're really happy as the creative director, but also the talent and all the different people that you work with as well. And then from that, once you have your final imagery, you then think about how it comes to life within the campaign. So we had a creative lockup and the campaign ended up being called The Great Create. So we worked to create that logo, use that photography to create that key image. And then we used that across lots and lots of different assets. So there was a social media part of the campaign. There was a PR part of the campaign. There were different toolkits that we created. So lots of people made lots of different stuff to follow the campaign. So that is it in a nutshell. And as I said, so as creative director, you come up with the idea and then you find the different people to work with. Here's some of the people that I've collaborated with over the years. There's different directors, editors, designers, even interior designers as well. And they're just going to give you a quick overview into how they got into their careers. Just need some sound. Sorry, Carly.
Not a problem, we'll be with you in 1 second. We're just getting that reshared so everyone can see the fantastic video you brought together, Katie.
Technology is not our friend this morning, is it?
It is not, no, but these things happen. I think everyone who's tuning in has probably experienced something similar when trying to learn from home as well.
Exactly. Not easy.
Damn.
Hello, my name is Helena Cohn and I am a freelance film director.
Well, my name is Nick McCosker and I am a graphic designer.
I am a video editor that spans across music videos, commercials, brand adverts, and also short film.
I'm also a film writer, so I write scripts and screenplays that I then turn into films.
I am founder and executive producer of 5 Fathom. We're a transatlantic creative production company.
And I'm an interior designer.
A film director is someone who controls the making of a film. They are also responsible for helping actors to play their roles.
So I do a lot of work around creating logos and the visual aspects of a company that makes it look and feel the way it looks and feels.
Typically, I find myself working with labels, artists, management groups, production companies, and now I get to work on that brand stuff. So work with Adidas, work with Nike.
We work with agencies and brands to create branded content, commercials, social
projects, from interior design to graphic design, through from concepts, those early design ideas, through to the actual build. So they can be a small pop-up on your local high street to a huge flagship in Milan or Dubai.
So to get into my role, I studied multimedia technology and design at the University of Kent.
Decided to study English literature at UCL.
I went on my internship industry placement in my third year at a company called G-Forces, where I started learning how to edit.
I then went on to do internships and work experience on lots of film sets, and for me that was the best way to learn how to become a film director.
Working on brand stuff like Aston Martin, Ford, Nissan.
I did end up doing a bachelor's degree in visual communication design.
I studied journalism. I had a few internships at various newsrooms, but when I graduated, I decided I wanted to do something a little bit more creative. So I started working as a production assistant on some documentaries.
I didn't actually do any courses or subjects in art and design. It was more of a sort of passion that was on the side. Whilst I was at sixth form, I actually did a sort of an adult interior design course, and that actually gave me the opportunity to create a portfolio.
And yeah, just started really teaching myself, going on YouTube, different websites, just finding different assets and playing around with them.
Then ended up applying for a job as a producer at a small production company, and my career in advertising sort of took off and spiraled upwards from there.
For anyone who would like to become a film director or would like to work in the film industry, I would definitely recommend doing work experience. It's invaluable.
And my interest at school, it was basically what you would expect. Like, I really enjoyed drawing, I really enjoyed art, something, and I'd come up with strange little characters and little stories behind them. And I often in my own little world with that kind of thing. This is kind of what I do now. It's useful.
Subjects that were to do with people, so art, human geography, biology, any subject that was about human beings and how they operate just fascinated me.
Going into like year 10, year 11 in secondary school, that's when I really started to get into the media. My English teacher was the head of media studies, and so he kind of pushed me and said, yo, like, I think you'd be good in media, just from like looking at my work in English.
I love reading, I love writing, I love watching films.
There is quite a lot in your writing and the way you think that is actually crucial in to come up with a concept to create.
I think it's really important to have as many interests and not be afraid to explore them.
And drawing and art and all that sort of thing, if that is where your heart lies, that's definitely something to nurture, because there is, totally a future in that. Yeah.
So there's just a sample of some of the different types of creative people that I work with as an advertising creative director. They obviously have their own creative skills and talents and passions and have gone down specific routes. So there's many, many, many different types of creative careers that you can have. Here's just an example. I think what's quite interesting is that all of them, they just had that urge and that want to create, and whether what they were doing right there and then led them to that creative path, they all just had that passion just to keep exploring it and just keep working with it on the side, and that's something that you can always do in your spare time. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey. So this is some of my artwork from when I was 15. So I loved art, loved art, loved drawing, loved photography, and I was fascinated with people. So it was mainly portraits that I created. Not very many happy people, apparently, that I drew at the time, but I was just fascinated with capturing emotion and telling people's stories and really trying to understand like what made people tick. And I would spend all my spare time painting, drawing, but to be honest, I didn't have a clue about advertising. I didn't have a clue about any kind of creative profession. I just knew that I wanted to do something with my creative skills. At A-level, I did art, photography and sociology, and I loved sociology. I just found it so interesting and so intriguing to see, again, like how society works and understand the way people are and why they're like that and what's led different people to have different types of lifestyles. And then just trying to really think about how you can talk to and communicate with different types of people through creativity. So once I did my A-levels, everyone was saying to me, well, what are you going to do with that? You're going to become a fine artist? And I was like, didn't have a clue, to be honest. It was only until, just go next slide. At the end of my A-levels, we filled out a thing called a UCAS form. UCAS form basically is a form that helps you find different universities and different courses that you can do. So you basically pop in all your different interests, the different courses that you're doing, and then it will put out different types of courses and careers for you. So creative advertising, luckily enough, got popped out for me, and I just thought it sounded really interesting, and a way of being able to still have a career that you get paid for and use my creativity. So from there, I went off to university. I actually went to the Northern School of Art, which is up in Preston, and I'm from Brentwood originally. So for those that know, it's literally other ends of the country. Felt like a really daunting experience, but actually I'm so pleased that I went somewhere that was completely different to my hometown, because again, it just helped me just see something outside of my own hometown and see how other people worked, and just network and just learn other ways of living. So at university, we all got partnered up. So in creative advertising, you often work in a team. So I worked particularly in the art side, but there's also people that work particularly in the copy and the writing side. So normally an art director will get partnered up with a copywriter, and in your work as a creative team in the industry. So that was my creative partner, Fran. So there we are, we're 21 with our final degree show. But yeah, there's lots of different courses that you can do up and down the country. So no matter whether you want to stay close to home or go far, you can find a creative course for you. So we graduated, but I guess the main thing that I learned at university was to think differently. So rethink how you think, and that is really important within advertising, is that you don't take a really literal approach to stuff. It's really trying to, sounds like a cliche, but think outside the box and approach different problems in different ways and use your strategic thinking to try and communicate stuff that would be interesting and attention grabbing and in a way that people wouldn't have seen before. So as well as that, we had a creative portfolio. To be totally honest, my creative portfolio was actually awful, but there's a few good bits that were from it. So this was for the Royal Opera House. So basically your portfolio will be a collection of different ideas and different campaigns that you then take to different people within the industry to ask for book crits. You ask them to literally go through your work, to criticise your work, to give you advice in the hope that you get a placement and then a job. So yeah, this is for the Royal Opera House, as I said. You can sort of see how old it was because we were still putting www. on everything at the time. But what we were trying to communicate and convey through these different ideas was that essence and that feeling of the Royal Opera House. So from ballet, so they're supposed to be ballet fingers doing a ballet pose on the mouse. Bottom right is supposed to be two mice dangling down, and then the screen being shattered by the loud sound of an opera singer. So yeah, you go around for book crits, they give you different advice, but getting those book crits is a whole thing in itself. So within all creative fields, networking is really, really important. You're trying to get in front of those people that might just give you that break or give you that bit of advice. So within advertising, there's different types of platforms and magazines where you can find who those people are. So my creative partner, Francesca, and myself, we would literally sit on an industry website and magazine called Campaign. We would see what different advertising projects had gone live. We would find out who those creative directors were that created them and try and find their email address and just email them. So we must have sent about, God, in the first 6 months, something like 50 emails, just begging for book crits and for people to come and see our work. But from that, we probably only got about 5 responses. And actually, that is something that's really important to know, is you just have to keep going with it. And it's not straightforward. It doesn't happen like that. You just have to keep going, keep networking, keep emailing people, showcasing their work, and also learn from that. So what was it from those 5 emails that we sent that got a response? How did we open that email? What was the thing that got our personality across that ultimately got us a book crit? So go on the next slide. I think this is a really important probably lesson in life, to be honest, but especially within a creative field. You kind of have to learn to be rejected, and actually that's okay. As I said, we emailed 50, we only got about 5 responses back, but that doesn't mean that's the end of your journey. You just have to keep going and keep going. And that's something with creativity in general, you experience throughout your whole life, not just getting into a job, but when your job. So we do pitches for clients, you might not win that pitch, or you might put a bit of work out in the public and the public might not like that bit of work. But actually that's all okay. That's something just to keep going, keep learning from, and it should never stop you. It should just make sure that's something that you just take on the chin, don't take personally, and just keep learning and power through. So as I said, so we did lots and lots of book crits, got some very harsh feedback along the way, but we kept going, and we eventually got a placement at an agency in Manchester called TBWA. So this is their building. It's an absolutely stunning building. I think we could quite believe our luck when we got in there. So we spent 2 weeks doing a free placement where we basically got given different live projects, different client work, and we just got the opportunity to create campaigns, work with the creative directors there, get their feedback, learn how the agency works, learn how different people in their different roles, and just get a chance to craft our skills. It's really in placements that you get that amazing expertise, and you just have to learn everything that you can. It's also just really important to note that all these people that you meet on those placements, you'll probably still know them in 20 years time. So just always try to keep connecting with those people, give your best self and the best impression of yourself, because it will be 15 years down the line. That person that was also an intern is now the boss of the agency that you're trying to get to. So make sure that you're just always humble, kind, and yeah, give your best. So another great way of getting into creative industries is through different festivals and through different awards. So there's one in advertising in particular called D&AD New Blood, where all the different courses, creative courses, come down to one exhibition hall. You showcase your portfolio and your work, and different people within the industry come down to come and view all your different work. And that is such an amazing opportunity to talk to people, network with people, give your business card, ask for book crits, see if there's any placements going, and just keep asking. This is actually where we were really lucky, Francesca and I, to get our lucky break. There was an advertising agency there who set a brief at 6 p.m, I think it was like on a Tuesday night, and they wanted you to deliver the work at 10 a.m. the next morning, and it was a brief actually for Ecover. So Francesca and I spent the whole night crafting our work, coming up with ideas, sketching, drawing, writing different lines to create a body of work that we submitted the next morning. We actually had food poisoning that night as well. So it wasn't the best of luck. So we spent the night taking turns to be sick, to be honest, whilst we created that work. So we came in the next day, no sleep, but from that we actually got an interview, and it was from that interview we got our first proper 3-month placement, and we got our first job. And this was our very first ever piece of work that got made. Again, you can see how dated it is. It was an interactive MPU, and it was for surf. Basically, it was like a laundrette man, and you could press different buttons to make him do different things, so dance away or to sing and just have some fun. But yeah, it was amazing. It's really, again, on those placements that you learn all that stuff, and we were very lucky. So 12 years later, as I said, I've done lots and lots of different types of creative output and worked on lots of different types of brands, and it's something that I continue with and continue to have different interesting projects every day and different types of creative output. I think just that one last thing to leave us on, I think there's 2 main learnings, I think, going forward. Hard work beats talent every single time. As I said, our portfolio wasn't the best portfolio in any way, shape or form. You know, and I definitely wasn't the best artist of all time, but we just tried. We just kept going, we kept trying, we kept networking, we kept asking for book crit, we listened, and we just kept trying to improve. And if you have that mindset and that approach, you will succeed in these industries. And again, just be nice to people, because it will be those people, you know, on your way up that are there for you on your way down as well. So just always try to give back where you can, be nice, and you'll go far. And that is it. So if anyone's got any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you so much, Katy. That was great. Yeah, we certainly have a few student questions here, so I'll kick off if that's okay with you. So we've got, oh, sorry, just scrolling through quite a bit of them. So the first question we've got is from Sophie, who asks, have you ever experienced writer's block, or I guess artist's block? If so, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, a lot. I think especially at the beginning, because you don't necessarily know what type of answer the client is necessarily looking for. So you often are going through a whole thing in your head first about sort of self-doubt, really, about knowing, trying to figure out what type of answer they want before you can even really come up with the idea. I found the more pressure you put on yourself, the less likely it is that those ideas or that writer's block is going to clear. So it's a hard thing to do, but actually trying to take breaks, like trying to go for walks, watch a film, just give yourself a bit of time, just to step away from it. I actually find that most ideas come at 3 in the morning when you're subconsciously thinking about it. So, you know, you just feed yourself with different inspiration, whether it's films, magazines, just talking to people as well. Just learn from everything. Give yourself that time and let your brain just do its thing in the background, and then hopefully it will come to you in the middle of the night.
That's great, thank you. And Macy wonders, do you ever feel nervous that the brand you're working with won't like the design or logo or whatever it is you're designing? And if so, how do you overcome it?
Yeah. I mean, I've been in some meetings where the client has absolutely ripped our work apart, and again, that's part of it. And if you want to create work that is braver, again, that is part of it. You can't always be worried and too afraid of what people are going to think of your work, because you'll never create anything that pushes boundaries or goes beyond, because you're always playing safe. What we actually do in terms of an advertising and creative pitch point of view is we always present 3 ideas. We always do one which we call the banker, which is your very safe, on brand, non-offensive, happy idea. And then you have one right at the other end, which is the one that you just want to make because you really love it and it's a great idea and you don't really care whether everyone else loves it or not, and you present that, and then you have one in the middle, which is a bit of a sweet spot between the two. So it's, you know, the client is going to be safe and happy with it, but it pushes the boundaries a little bit. So I think trying to create a suite that makes sure that you're never hopefully in the situation which I've been in before and getting ripped to pieces. But yeah, you've got that work that they're going to like as well.
Thank you. And Sia wants to know, how many people do you typically work with on a project?
Yeah, it can vary. It can really vary. So I'm also co-founder of an advertising agency, and there's only been 5 of us there. So we've worked in a really small, nimble team. And actually within that team, we've all taken on lots of different roles as well. So you can work in a really small team. But then, for instance, the Wix TV adverts I spoke about, across that entire project, through all the different stages of it, there's probably about 60 different people who take part in that, from the sound engineers to set designers to the directors on set to editors to producers, etc., etc., etc. So it really depends on the size of the project.
Thank you. Another student wants to know, did anyone ever try and prevent you from pursuing this career?
Yes, yeah. I think, I mean, that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this talk actually today, because I think creative subjects have a bit of a stereotype of not really having much of a career to them. So I think, you know, your parents want you to do well, don't they? So when you say, oh, I'm just going to do art, they're like, well, what are you going to do for a living? You're like, I'm going to do art. You're like, well, what are you going to do for a living? So I think there was definitely nervousness from family members to make sure that, you know, was setting myself up for the future. So yeah, I think, you know, my dad really wanted me to go to university, which I did go to university, but he wanted me just to do a safe subject. For him, he didn't know what creative advertising was, and I've been lucky enough to, as I said, to make a career out of it. But there will be people that will prevent you from it. I think the best thing to do is just have all the research that you can, and have the passion, and still give yourself those solid courses and those solid subjects to fall back on, but just keep going with it as a passion and a side project, even if people want to hold you back.
Thanks, Katie. I've got another question from a student who says, I really dislike art and have never been good at art. However, I'm still interested in a career in advertising. Is it possible to do advertising even if I don't like drawing?
Yeah, definitely. So there's so many different roles within advertising. So my husband, actually, he is an account man within advertising. So his job is to look after the clients and to oversee the projects. And you also have things like project managers. So some people's way of thinking and the things they like are organisation and you know, being able to see all the detail and everything and pull all that together. So they're really, really good at that side of it. There's other people who really like writing, who like coming up with ideas. Yeah, the art side is just one part of the job. There's lots and lots of different roles that you can do if you still like the idea of being involved in creating campaigns.
Thanks, Katie. Darcy wonders, how are you working during coronavirus or lockdown?
I quite like it. I quite like having this space to myself, to be honest. You know, I feel like I've got that non-interrupted time to really think, to use my brain, to go for a coffee whilst I'm brainstorming. And actually, that's quite a good thing about advertising. Generally, you don't have to sit at your desk. You're not confined to one space. It's a bit freer. But yeah, I really like it. And I think that technology, when it works, I mean, today was a little bit slow, sure, but yeah, when it works, it doesn't really hold you back.
Thanks. Macy wants to know, who or what is your inspiration?
That is a good question. I think, as cheesy as it sounds, I mean, everything. I genuinely find people really, really fascinating. And I think there's something that you can learn from every single person that you speak to. And people are so varied, and what people are interested in and engaged in. That's, you know, part of my job is to really understand what is going to connect with different audiences. So yeah, people are my inspiration. If you really listen to what people are saying, you can learn lots and lots of different things. I guess in terms of a artistic output, I love going to galleries. I love, actually, do you know what, Instagram is actually really good, and just getting lots and lots of different visual inspiration on Instagram, just making sure that you fill your feed with things that are interesting, positive and engaging, and not a waste of your time. I think it can be quite easy on Instagram to follow lots of stuff that actually is a bit of a distraction and taken away. So just use that as a really interesting tool to make sure you're being inspired every day, every time you go on there.
Thanks so much. And we have a student, Sedona, who's in the process of writing a book, and they want to know kind of what are the next steps to get it published?
It's a tricky one, and to be totally honest, I'm going through that process myself. So I'm self-publishing at the minute, but yeah, it's getting into a whole other industry in itself. You think you have got your book and you think that's it, but no, you've got to break into a whole network. The approach that I'm taking at the minute, so I'm looking again at different awards. So there's different independent book awards. So again, there's people judging it who are publishers, who work at the big book retailers. So entering that to get it onto their radar. Again, going through all the different book industry publications on site, news feeds, finding those emails, sending it out, really tailoring those emails so they're personal to the book publications. If you haven't got an illustrator, trying to find an illustrator to collaborate with as well, and trying to get your sample. Again, I'm really using Instagram a lot at the minute on the book side and finding the different book critics online, and just sending them a copy and asking them to post it and share it out. But again, I think with the book, you've got to see it as a continuous journey. You're not going to have a finished book and then it's going to get published straight away. You've just got to keep going with it and keep going with it until we've got global domination with it eventually.
Absolutely. Sorry, gone through so many questions here. Oh, yeah, has AI ever helped your job?
It's interesting because we're always using different technology in advertising. We're always thinking about how we can innovate and give different ideas and present different campaigns in interesting ways. So yeah, it definitely will be part of it. It's not a part of like the everyday, but it's more a part of a different type of creative output. So yeah, and again, that's like the beauty of it. If you want AI to be part of your job in advertising, you can certainly make that part of your job.
Another student asks, well, says, everyone tells me I'm really creative and good at what I do, but I lack confidence. How can I improve that, or what should I do?
I think it's really common, actually. Everyone hates their own work. Even now, whenever I produce anything or create something, and as I say, when I did the paintings, I was like, I can't look at it. I can't. And it's probably taken me 15 years to look back at the artwork I showed you right at the beginning. So I think that's a really natural thing to lack confidence in your work. I think the thing is, just try and get as much feedback from people as you can, and maybe initially that's people that you trust. And then over time, think about maybe sharing it a little bit wider, and also just sort of realise it sort of goes back to that rejection slide. It just happens, and it happens to everyone all the time, and it's not that big a deal. Just because one person doesn't like one thing you've done, that shouldn't stop you from carrying on to the next. So just try and see it as that bigger picture and that bigger journey, and just know that it will come with time as you get more positive feedback and you learn more. It's part of the process.
Absolutely, thank you so much. Another student asks, are you based in one place or do you move around the country for different projects?
Yeah, so we have an office in London. Obviously everyone's working from home at the minute, but yeah, you will do different shoots all over the country. So I did a shoot last week in Eastbourne, but yeah, you can fly around the world with it. It really depends. It depends what your idea is. I mean, we often try to write scripts that say we open on a Caribbean beach, try and get a holiday out to somewhere sunny. But yeah, you can travel around with it. And again, then there's different pockets of advertising. So before it was all about London, but Bristol has an amazing advertising scene, as does Bournemouth, as does Leeds, as does Manchester. And obviously the way that things are going now with remote working, you can work all over.
Thank you so much, Katy. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. But thanks so much for joining us, everyone. And another thanks to Katy.